Hello, Jamie back with Ink Road Stamps Design Team make reverse stamping for a spinner card and twirl on the haters. So to start, I'm just bringing in my gel print plate. It works. It's the best thing I've found for reverse stamping. So you stamp straight up and then straight back off, and then you just put your paper on and it'll pick up the image. Usually, this has been the best for me, at least ink transfer wise. I am using Lawn Fawn's jet black ink for this because I want to Copic color it. It's not perfect. It's going to have a couple of light spots. You can definitely do it more, you can try it a couple more times. But I was happy with my first impression stamp and I just went with it. Keep in mind that it will stain your gel print plate, and so you will have to do like a clean, I would call it, which is basically doing that acrylic paint and then letting it dry with piece of paper on top and then lifting the print, and it should get the whole image off so you can do another one. That's what I did before because I had one on there from a previous make before I started this one, so it worked well. Just keep that in mind. It has been the best in my experience with reverse stamping to get a good crisp image. They used to make like a solid polyphotomer. No, I'm saying it wrong. Anyways, they used to make a solid one that you could kind of do the same thing with. I never had great luck with it. It looked like kiss stamping for the most part. It was always lighter. Sometimes I wasn't perfect. Granted, with like a misty tool, it probably works better now than it did back in the day. Just my 2 cents. I don't know what else to tell you on that one. So for this one, I'm bringing in that color palette I've used in a previous card on my other channel. So if you missed it, it was on my Instagram account, and then of course it's on my @SaltyCardCreations on my other YouTube channel. So I fell in love with this color combo. It's kind of got the maroon vibe to it, but it's just like a maroon with a little bit of purple in it, and I love the color combo. So I did speed this up for the rest of it, but I just wanted to show you how I do, because I want to make this one twirl. I want the front and the back to look very similar. So doing them like at the same time together, doing the bows at the same time, the outfit at the same time, kind of gives you that similar look. So I can kind of mirror it at the same time. I just do better if I do it in that respect, right? Yeah, it's kind of how I go. So now I had to figure out like hair color, skin color. I just go and pull through all of my pre-done color combos. It's the fastest way for me to color and create is just using an old color combo and not having to come up with the new one. So I tend to do it a lot. All of my color combos can be found on my blog at InkyandScrappy.com. They are on the right hand, I think it's the right hand side. It's called Ohuhu Marker Blends, and all of them that I have done will be on there. I think. I have to add this one. Anyways. So I did screenshot this one because this was the skin tone that I ended up going with. And then, of course, the hair color ended up going with. So I went with some darker skin tone and some darker colored hair. And just kind of, played with it. I'm not great at hair. I know that you want to start with the darkest and kind of work your way to where your highlight would be. That's kind of the theory I go with it. Very sketchy, very, I don't know, stringy almost, because hair's, strands. So I kind of want to get that stranded look. And that's how I do it. You can definitely speed it down if you want to see it in slower motion. It takes some time. It takes a lot of practice too. I did come in with a fine liner to kind of clean up any of those lines that were too light for me when it came to my coloring. So some of the image, when I was done coloring, some of the colors were lighter than I wanted them close to those lines, and so it just kind of helped clean up the image in its entirety. I did run it through the Brother Scan and Cut, and then I took it off, put a new piece of paper on there, and had the Scan and Cut run it again to give me that exact, duplicate image on it without having to fussy cut anything. I hate fussy cutting. It is what it is. So for my background, I have this sped up. I love it's one of my dirty little secrets. I love watching backgrounds come together in high speed. It's my favorite. Probably because sometimes they take forever, and watching it in high speed just it's satisfying. That's all. Anyways, I brought in Uncharted Mariner, Broken China, and then Speckled Eggshell, and then I'm bringing in Brutus Monroe's Aqua pigments in Blue Frost to give that mica shimmer and shine to the background, and a little bit of water. Now, I left this part in, so you know I'm on the Ink Road Stamps design team, and so we have to do some still photos, and so I usually stop what I'm doing, set it up quick to make the photo look all right, and snap a shot, and then move on to my next step. So for this one, I am bringing in a super old Spellbinders like decorative die for my center. I needed something that was going to be big enough to allow my girl to spin, and I needed a window, obviously. So I'm also bringing in I think it's the Trinity Stamps Modern Embossed A2 stack. So it's the biggest one. It is an A2 size panel. So it gives you that 5.5 by 4.25. It's just easier when you're doing something that needs to be centered to do it all in die cuts. Shape die cuts are probably my favorite, like your basics, just to make sure that you get, everything as centered as possible. Now for this one, I ended up cutting the front, and then I put the front, lined it up onto the card front, and then of course I just did some removable adhesive here so I could pull it back off. Once it goes through your die cut machine, though, it is a little bit harder to pull off. So maybe next time I'll pat it on my sweatshirt before I do that. So once I had that run through again, this is just lines everything up beautifully, so I don't have to worry about making sure everything is just so in the long run it just saves some time and some headaches. So I did come in with my same colors that I used on the front of the card. Now I could have just used that cutout piece. That would have been super easy to do and probably a time saver. But of course, I wanted to do something a little bit more on the inside. So I am bringing, and I could have done this on that cutout piece. I wanted it to be flat and flush though. So I did bring in some black soot to go around the edges to kind of make it look like more of a stage. And then of course I brought in antique linen to kind of give me that spotlight effect as well. So it just kind of gives it another dimension to the front of my card. It is what it is. That's how I roll. So for this one, I did slow it down for you so you can actually see. This is a new technique to me, or something I wanted to try to see if it worked better. So on that, I would have probably in the past just done the front and the back and just glued them together in the middle and called it good. Well, sometimes they like to get looser, or they slide out, or all the things. So I thought, what happens if I cut a third piece and poke holes in it and then kind of thread it? So that's what I did here. And I was very careful with, you saw me go back in with the pin to kind of poke that last hole back in by the toe. I didn't want to make it too big that I was going to rip it, and so I was extra careful there. But I just threaded it through really fast. All you need is some lightweight, I don't know if lightweight, I think it's probably 30-pound test weight fishing line, clear twine or thread. Those types of things would work. You could have even gone with maybe a silver thread, maybe would work. White would work. Just keep in mind that you're going to see those a little bit more than you would the clear fishing line. I've also used the invisible necklace beading. I don't know, it's not wire twine, it's thread. So that works as well. And then I'm just coming back in with my double-sided score tape here. I love double-sided score tape when it comes to twister cards. So just, heads up, you'll see me using it a lot. So I did put some on my piece that I had actually threaded through, and then I did put some extra on my little images here. I'm going to apologize right now for the sun coming in. It's on my list to buy a sheer curtain for my window, and I hope it will cut down on the sun not behaving when I'm trying to film. Yeah, it is what it is. So I'm trying to kind of block it but it is what it is. So I did bring in my liquid adhesive here, which is glitter art glue, just to help me a little bit of wiggle room. It also, you know, helps to keep that string in place and hold it still and steady. And then I will add a block on top of it, squish it down really good. It just kind of helps, you know, get even pressure all the way throughout. So for this one, I'm put double-sided adhesive on the top and the bottom all the way across, just because I'm going to need it anyways, and then bringing in another piece of double-sided adhesive after the fact to kind of sandwich it in between there. And then I always leave I don't cut it off because I worry about it like pulling out. So I do wrap it around and then put it on the double-sided adhesive that's there. And then you will see I do end up going in with a third layer over the top of that as well. It's just an extra precaution. I hate it when my cards fall apart, so I am extra careful and I probably extra adhesive everything, just because I'd rather it, you know, make it to its recipient and still be able to twirl a lot. I like to play with them a lot before I send them out. I'm not going to lie. So for this one, I added extra glue onto the front on top of the adhesive. Why? Because I needed to make sure that I had enough wiggle room just in case I didn't line this up right. Putting that liquid adhesive on top of the double-sided adhesive gives you just a little bit of wiggle room there if you have to pull it back up or you have to shift it a little bit. So it's my, I guess, you know, try not to fail technique. I don't know. It is what it is, right? So I wanted to put the little twirl on the haters behind her, so you can't really see it. It didn't line up. As much as I tried to line it up perfectly, it wasn't perfect, and so you can kind of see it a little bit on the finished card, but that's okay. So I tried to hide it in there. You know, I could have put it on there and then put the girl on there and done it. That probably would have been the smarter way to do it, but you know, I was just excited to get my little spinning girl on there. And I wasn't really thinking about the rest of the story or the rest of the card. So I did bring in my Tim Holtz stamp platform here and kind of held it down, hoped for the best, held down the other one with some blocks to try to keep it, you know. And I was super careful with my ink because, yeah, I tend to ink smudge everything. I also brought in the heat gun on this one and heat set that ink. It takes a while for it to dry, and I didn't want it to transfer onto my image. So I had thought about bringing in one of the other smaller, that little sentiment, and putting it on the top or the bottom where it wasn't going to be seen through the front of the card. But I decided not to and just ended up bringing in a different stamp set instead and putting one on the front. So I just had gotten this one in, and I was like, good heart, bad mouth. I think it's volume 7. It's one of the newer ones. And so I was like, yep, it needs to happen. So I'm putting that one on the front. So usually I put the saltier stuff onto my other channel, but this time I just decided it was okay. To me, it's not really a swear word. We deal with it all the time at the farm. So I'm sorry if it offends you. I'm really not that sorry, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So I'm just lining it up. I did do the curve so it would fit a little bit better with my cutout window here. And then I'm going to stamp that down. And oh look, it didn't stamp all the way. So a second stamping is in order and it worked fine. I also heat set that one quick because, you know, smudgy, smeary fingers. And I was trying to behave myself. I know, doesn't happen very often. So I'm coming in with some stickles here. I want to say I did the diamond ones, but I'm not positive. They might be the unicorn ones. The yellower of the clear ones. Don't ask. Some of them have like a gold fleck to them. I think it says unicorn on there. So it's the unicorn stickles. And then I brought in my black jelly roll. I think it's a black glaze pen to do the eyes on this one. It kind of just makes them pop a little bit more. And then it took me forever to get my white one to work, so letting it dry and set up and then adding the white on top. I also stepped away from it and did the back side after it was all dry. And then I came back once everything was dry, closed the card up, and then I'm going to add in some little embellishments here. So these are from Trinity Stamps. They're the Stage Lights one. It just kind of goes with that whole card theme. So I'm pulling in the deeper purpley tone ones here, and then I'm going to pull out. And I decided to go with some of the lighter pink ones. They just went well with my color scheme on this one. I could have maybe done some of the yellow ones instead. Those would have looked pretty as well. But they just add a little something to it. It kind of helps pull in the little tutu that the girl is wearing. Just pull that tutu color down into the rest of the card. And then, of course, once this is all dry, I spin it around a whole lot of times, and then you close it. So then when your recipient opens it, it twirls around on the card front. So it kind of gives it that free flow look when it is popped up. And, you know, it kind of hides the sentiment. So this one was really fun to do, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. So I will be back with Ink Road Stamps Design Team Make probably in about a week, and I will see you back here, hopefully. When? I think it'll be here. It might be on the other channel. I can't promise.